state capitol.
The leaders of the Illinois Republican Party tried to lift the spirits of weary activists in its party at the rally on Republican Day Thursday at the State Fair. That's when I sat down with Illinois Republican Party Chair Tim Schneider to ask him who exactly is leading this party. Is there a clear-cut leader of the Republican Party in Illinois today?
I would say we're leading by a team. I think we're working very well with House Leader Durkin and Leader Brady and the Illinois Republican Party, as well as partners from the Illinois Policy Institute, Ideas Illinois. There are many players that, for the first time that I can remember in a very long time, that we're actually working all together on the same team. We're all working together. We're tired of, the circular firing squad, in the Republican Party. Our enemy is J.B. Pritzker, Mike Madigan, John Cullerton, the Democrats, and we need to expose them for what they are. They're tax raisers, they're corrupt. Just yesterday you saw Tom Cullerton, he was arraigned while the leader in the Senate is hosting a fundraiser for him next month and calls him a valuable member of his caucus. How can you do that when you're just indicted under 41 counts, the previous week? Seems a little ridiculous to me.
And that's always politically explosive especially when your rivals are under the microscope of the federal government. That certainly is a serious issue when the federal government is investigating that, and it's a political opportunity, it sounds like you're saying as well, for Republicans to sort of capitalize on that.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, why should anybody who's been, people are elected to office to do the people's business, to enrich the lives of the people they serve, not to enrich themselves. And when you cross that line and you enrich the lives, your own life over the people that you serve, there's a problem there. Those people should not be elected to any kind of office. So we're going to go after those people. We want to elect good people that are going to enrich and make the lives of people for the better in our state and in our national government.
In 2016 and 2018, even after Governor Rauner lost his election, he pointed back to President Trump as sort of an anchor around his neck, something that he thought was difficult to pave a path to election in Illinois for him forward. Traditionally a blue state here. It sounds, though, from the comments from you and others in this party that you're more closely embracing President Trump heading into 2020. Why the shift?
Well, first of all, the Illinois Republican Party has always embraced our president. You saw today on this director's lawn that the people of Illinois, the Republicans in Illinois, strongly embrace our president and are fully supportive of him, and he is our standard bearer on a national level. And
does his rhetoric hurt you in the suburbs, though?
Well, I think the Twitter bubble can hurt us, but I think if we get out there and talk about what he's been able to do for the people of Illinois, the lowest unemployment rates for women, for African Americans, for Latinos, for the tax reform that are making everybody's lives better. I think if we can avoid talking about the Twitter storm and actually talk to the points that have made people's lives better under this president, we'll be doing just great. Now, unfortunately, the mainstream media doesn't want to seem to help us.
Well, you're here on a show on
and I appreciate
channel
this.
now, and we're giving you a chance to address this. I want to ask you less about the medium or the platform that the president uses, or the app, social media, and more about the message, the content of his words, why it is that he thinks it's important or helpful politically to be so divisive sometimes. If I can use history as recent history as a question or a way to frame this, it was, I believe, 2008 when Senator John McCain was campaigning, and someone said at a campaign rally to him in New Hampshire that then Senator Obama was a Muslim or an Arab and unseemly or unfit for the office of president. And Senator McCain stood up and said, no, I don't believe that's true. I believe he's a good family man. I believe he's an American. I believe he was born here. I wonder, how does the Republican Party choose between trying to lead its base in a more civil direction or following the base in some of these more populist impulses? How do you do that?
Well, I think there are people who think that some of the president's rhetoric is over the top, but still, I think what we need to do is go back to the policies that he's implementing that are bettering the lives of the people of Illinois. The tax reform is making our lives better. Our economy has never been greater than it is today here in Illinois, despite the tax increase and despite the negativity of what Democrats have done to ruin our state. Last year, 45,000 people left the state of Illinois. Since the year 2000, 1.2 million people have left the state of Illinois. We may lose 2 congressional seats, and I think you can blame Democrats for that. You know, the tax increases have been exorbitant. We are the highest tax state in the nation. And now we're looking at the progressive income tax, which, you know, you may as well build a wall around Illinois to keep people in, because they're all going to be leaving if this progressive income tax gets passed, because that is simply a bait and switch. They're going to come in with these low introductory rates, and then a year or 2 later, you know, when the legislature can pass anything they want, the rates are going to go up because they can't support the spending that they have instituted with the rates the way they are. Rates are going to go up. Middle-class Americans are going to pay more.
Is there still any room for Bruce Rauner in the Illinois Republican Party? Is he welcome in your circles?
He's welcome in my circle anytime he wants to be in it. I have a great deal of respect for the former governor. I think he was I think he was on the right path to do the right things. I think what happened was that Madigan just put a wall up and said no. And Madigan was in control. And if we can ever change that dynamic, I think we're ready to run and make Illinois a better state.
When we come back, one last visit to the Illinois State Fairgrounds, where 2 big national political icons made headline appearances and gave rallying speeches to their respective parties this week. We're back in a moment.